Hi, my name is Kai Degner, and I'm thrilled to share with you this quick start guide to how to host a 300-person community summit with no agenda. This is a type of event that I've been doing for a number of years now, and this is going to give you a quick overview, and you might even be able to pull one off just based on this video. So let's move ahead here. I'm co-founder of a project called Orange Band, which you can find out more about at kaidegner.com. I facilitated and organized and hosted hundreds of meetings and panels and summits like this, and also worked with conferences. I was mayor in Harrisonburg, Virginia, 2009 and 10, and served 8 years on Harrisonburg City Council. And I was a congressional candidate in 2016, where I actually used this event design as part of my campaign. The big question right now is, how can we get connected and organized? The big question people are asking is, how do we get coalitions, organizations, different potential project partners, political groups, and even private businesses together in the new economy? How do we solve problems? How do we have a collaborative approach moving forward? And this is a design that I used when I was mayor. So I'll tell a quick story about how it got started. After I was elected mayor in 2009, I had a lot of people stop me on the street, and they wanted to talk about backyard gardens and chickens and solar panels in the backyard and local foods projects and lots of things that had to do with the environment. And not all of these ideas were really relevant to local government, but a lot of the ideas had merit. And I noticed that people were connecting with me because they knew me either through my previous organizing work or because I was mayor, or they thought I could do something for them. But they didn't know each other, so they talked to me but walked past each other. And a lot of the ideas, if they could get together and form a team, might actually be able to happen. So I had this question of, how could I organize this where everybody has their own focus, people have different learning and leadership styles, organizations and groups and businesses, they have different strengths and structures and limits to what they could contribute. And sometimes action on these things requires people owning their own idea, and you need self-directed teams to make that happen. And out of all these styles and directions, there's no actually one correct way forward. We kind of need all of it. So how the heck do you organize in that sort of environment? Well, there is a meeting format for that, and it's called Open Space Technology. And this is the cover of a book written by the founder, Harrison Owen. And I'll get into the basics of it, but please buy the book. It's available in the PDF download that's associated with this video. And you can Google it and find it on Amazon or maybe even in your local bookstore. But my examples for how I use the summits is for broad issues and themes. But it's actually best when you need an urgent problem solved and a complex problem that involves lots of people. So it's a very simple process, and let me get into explaining it. It starts with an empty agenda. More specifically, you see me standing there and my hand is at the top of a column that says Rockfish Gap Room. So this was in a hotel, and we had 6 columns, and each column represented a meeting location. And you see we had 3 time sessions. But in the center, there's no pieces of paper there saying what the topics are in that room at that time. In fact, this doesn't even show us exactly when the times are yet. But this is how the meeting starts, and this is obviously one that I did when I was running for Congress. This summit was themed Preserving America the Beautiful. But that's kind of the basic design of an agenda. So, and that's how open space technology starts. It's an empty room where everybody's sitting in a big circle, and you have some meeting locations set aside. You see at the top the big meeting room, the agenda's on the far wall, and then these were 2 of those rooms, but we also had meeting tables around that big plenary session room that you see at the top. So how do you go from no agenda to filling all those seats to filling the breakout rooms? That is what this video is going to be about. You see here, we got all those people to show up. Bottom left corner is a breakout session, and the bottom right corner is another breakout session, but you can see that agenda was actually filled up. So how does that happen? And that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, what's possible in this video is I can explain to you why and when this summit design can work. I can go over the general flow of a summit. I'm going to review some keys to my success, and there's a PDF that you can download where I have a sample press release and sample agendas and some fundraising strategies. I'll go over those before the end of the video. What I can't do is give you a step-by-step guide through every single step of the process. So this is kind of high level, but it gives you enough information that if we never talked or we never worked together, you ought to be able to pull this off. Buy the book or contact me if you want more than what this video can provide. So let's get into it. The basics of open space technology, and you can get more of it in the book, like I said, but you need a hot topic that needs some kind of solution. You have to have a big room for that circle you saw, and you have to have space for those breakout meeting locations. And you need enough time. This is not something you can pull off in an hour. Usually you need at least 5 hours, and sometimes open space meetings are done over 3 days. I've done them over 2 days before. I've done an evening and then a day. The example I'll go through today is about a 5 or 6 hour event. So there's reasons for all that. You definitely need coffee and food, and the principles and the law of open space. I put it on a graphic here to the right, and I'm going to zoom in. And you see on the left, I put it on a nice big banner, but most of the times people put these on poster boards and kind of handwrite them and put them on the wall around the space. But the 4 principles are: whoever comes is the right people, whatever happens is the only thing that could have, whenever it starts is the right time, when it's over, it's over. The one law is the law of 2 feet, and it simply says that if you don't feel like you're getting something out of where you are at the moment, or you're not contributing in the way you want in the meeting you're in or the breakout session you're in, you get to put your 2 feet wherever you want, and you get to move around, and that's where this butterfly and bumblebee come from. Sometimes people buzz around between different meetings, and they cross-pollinate the different breakout locations, and sometimes they're like butterflies and they stay in one place the whole time. So the law of 2 feet also suggests that you don't even necessarily need to be in a breakout location. You can be over by the coffee station or in the hallway talking to people. And then the last little rule that you go over is be prepared to be surprised. So the general flow of a summit is here you can see this one's just starting to come together. People are showing up a little bit early. I usually have some music playing at this point, and there's got to be a coffee station. Now for introductions, when it's time to start, I wait about 5 minutes because people are always showing up late or getting their name tags. But I don't really have a formal opening at this point. I just say, hey, stand up and talk to 2 people about why you're here today. And people get up immediately. It's a great way to start mixing it up. I do a few rounds of this, probably 3-4 minutes for each round. And it really is a great way to start the event off with a lot of good energy. Now, the formal opening in open space is actually thanking people for coming and just explaining how it's going to work. The whole idea here is that you're trusting the people that are in this room to have shown up because they care about the topic and they have things they want to say. So this is not about over-programming the event. This is not about having a big keynote speech. Usually I don't talk for more than like 8 minutes before the event turns over to people creating the agenda. So I'm just welcoming everybody, explaining the process, and telling them when the food's going to be available and telling them where the bathrooms are. But you can see I have the banner there in the back where I'm actually I go over those principles and the law and everything that I explained before. But quickly I say you can go to the corners and get big pieces of paper and write with markers on a topic. Write the topic that you want to talk about. And here, Anne, you can see her behind me there in the middle, and sort of the maroon jacket there. She is telling everybody what the topic is. So what I do is I take their paper from them when they come to the middle to describe their topic. I walk it around so everybody can read their topic and hear the person explain what the topic is. And when I'm finished walking through the circle, I kind of hand the paper back, and that lets people wrap it up pretty quickly, so you don't get big speeches at this point in the game, which really isn't what you want. So you can see here that in the back left, Anne is at the wall, and Boris is back there helping her pick a location and time for that breakout session she wanted to have. And Sebastian right now has the mic. He's explaining what his topic is, and you can see the other people standing are waiting to share what their topic is. You do not need to be worried about people not having a topic if you've hit the theme and you do it in the other ways that I'll explain. So it's amazing how quickly this many people will show up and fill out the agenda. So it can take about 45 to 60 minutes, depending on how many people you have, to set the agenda. And then, ta-da, you have an agenda. So you can notice here that some of these papers are grouped together. You see like 3 papers kind of mushed together under a time and topics because they were related. You also see on the right-hand side, I added the session time. So I wasn't sure how long it was going to take to schedule set this whole agenda. So I set 45-minute sessions. That's probably the shortest you want for these, but I did a session. In this case, it was starting at 10:40, 11:30, and 12:30. And there's obviously some movement time in there, and I have some extra time for the well, actually, I don't have extra time built in this one. The food was just a buffet that the people would take to their sessions. And then I simply say the day is yours, and people go and look at the schedule and start figuring out which ones are they interested in, and they start planning, or sometimes they're negotiating between some that might be combined, or reordering them if there's 2 that they want to go to at the same spot. So but this is, at this point, you're kind of done facilitating because the event is out of your hands. And you can see people show up. On the left, you can see there were 2 tables. There's one in the back corner and the front corner, so we just labeled those table 1 and table 2, I think. And then we had breakout session rooms in the top right. You see this was in a hotel, so in more traditional format. But then in the bottom right, you see people using the law of 2 feet just to be talking amongst themselves and not necessarily in a session. So I don't know exactly when this photo was taken, but in the day, but that is valuable. This exchange that people are having informally is okay and is part of the design. And in the back, you see the buffet being set up. I actually don't schedule a bunch of time usually for lunch. I just kind of set up a buffet, and maybe I'll add an extra 15 minutes between the sessions that surround lunch, but I say, just grab your lunch and head to a session. Here's a little add-on that people could be doing before and during the event, is they can attend these table displays. This is a way that you could raise a little bit money for your event. You could, besides just having sponsors, which I'll get more into later when I go through the press releases and things. I usually charge $50 or $75 or $100 for groups to set up tables. And, if you get 8 or 10 to do that, it starts adding up, and you can cover some of the expenses, the food, and that sort of thing. This is another way that you can provide value to the people who show up. Now, at the end of the event, I do not do report outs. So this is not a time where 30 sessions are going to be reported out and everybody has to hear everything that happened. That would be a disaster at the end of this. And you can see some people have already left at this point, but I have 2 microphones in my hand, and I'm just going to hand those around and say, I just want to hear a sentence or 2 about the highlights and the takeaways. There are different ways that you can do the reporting. Sometimes you ask people to be a scribe in each of the breakout sessions. Sometimes there can be an online form that people fill out to share the notes from the events. But the point is that the closing circle is not really a time for people to say what happened in each session. It's just, what are some highlights and takeaways? And this is where you get, everybody gets the mic for a couple minutes. And hopefully not a couple minutes, because that would take too long. But, some people skip. I kind of let everybody have a chance at the mic. Some people pass. Some people do go on too long. But on average, this doesn't usually take more than 15 minutes to wrap up the event, especially if I do a good job setting the context that this is just for everybody to have a quick moment to say some closing words. So what are the outcomes of this event? Relationship building, education. A lot of people learn a lot about the issues in the breakout sessions. There can be new or stronger coalitions formed between people of different groups or businesses. There are always plans for future events and meetings, or people show up and they learn about something that they want to attend. I've had amazing personal change stories, people saying that they change where they're going to go to grad school or what they want to study based on showing up. Or, I got to talk to somebody I'd never been able to talk before and learn something, and it really impacted my life. And then action, everybody's always asking, what's the action that comes out of this? What happens? Well, after doing 25 of these, there's more action and results than I could ever know about, and I trust that there are a bunch that I don't know about. But there's been new coalitions formed, events scheduled, new nonprofit partnerships formed out of these. There's been petitions created. There's been changes at the city council level that were initiated based on conversations that came out of a summit. It's just amazing how much can come out of an event designed this way. This is just a few of the people that attended a summit I did in Roanoke as part of the campaign. And I wanted to put this in here just to show you that if you have a free event and you do a good job with outreach, you can have all kinds of wonderful people show up, and they're all walking away with their own experience and their own to-do lists, their own stack of business cards, and their own way of making this event relevant to themselves. And this is what I love about these events. So here are my keys to success. Number one, use open space technology. Don't try and fudge the meeting format. Don't think you can overschedule it. Don't get nervous that you don't have a bunch of pre-scheduled sessions. Just use the process. This is in the book, but just as an emphasis, don't schedule a long opening or keynote speech. That is an absolute killer for these events. The energy just goes right into the ground. Don't do it. Use open space. Trust the process. Trust the people that show up to create the agenda and create a great day. The second thing is you want an outreach team. So because you don't need to overschedule the event and have a 30-session conference with tracks and know who's going to be in each room when and who needs a projector and not, you don't need to do that degree of planning, but you do need a lot of effort into the outreach team. And one of the biggest jobs that the outreach team is going to do is find partners. And partners, I mean something very specific by partners. Partners are, it's free to be a partner. They are allowing either their individual name or their organization name to be listed as a participant, as a partner in the event. And the key to this is getting a list of 20, 30, 40, 50, 80 partner organizations in an event. And that is what makes it attractive and lets people show up. And I'm going to show some examples of that in a minute. Those examples will be in the PDF guide, which you can download on a link that's available somewhere around where you're watching this video. So I'll flip over to the PDF and walk you through it. So here is the PDF download. There is a book link to Amazon. You can buy that open space technology book there. I also have a YouTube channel that has, I don't know, maybe half a dozen videos right now of different summits, and I'm adding to it all the time. But I put some links to specific videos in there that'll give you a good overview of the first summit I did as mayor, a video I did with the Intercultural Interfaith Summit, and a video of the second summit. And then I have press releases here in this PDF. And again, you can download this by clicking the link or subscribing or whatever the option is on the link that you see near this video. So the press release on the right-hand side, this is the beginning, and you can see it's just a PDF of an email that I sent to a bunch of media, and I covered up all their addresses there. But in this case, you can see that I blind carbon copied all the media with this press release. Normally now I'm carbon copying them so they actually see each other's names, and that I'm hoping that's a ploy for the media to see who else is hearing about it, so maybe they want to beat the others to the story. And your partner organizations are also going to be able to send out their own press releases. And the other thing that I'll notice here, even though I'm sharing a press release, that partner organizations are the thing that's going to drive your attendance. The media coverage is nice and it's fun, but rarely does media coverage help get people there. And most of the time they don't show up until the event's underway anyway. But on the left-hand side and the right-hand side, you see the second and third page of this press release. And it says, Virginia Mayor to hold Sustainability Summit on May 30th. Again, I'm not sure why my punctuation was wrong in there, but I use these orange arrows to highlight what I think is most important. And starting on the left, you can see that it says topics may include local foods, renewable energy, bike share programs, right? I'm actually not saying what the topics are going to be. I'm just saying it might include these topics. I'm also in the second line there saying there might be 30 to 50 breakout sessions. That's a pretty wide range of breakout sessions. So the point is, you don't need to be nervous about not knowing exactly what the topics are or the number of breakout sessions. This is plenty to let people know what the event is going to be. Also, you can see this other arrow that's pointing up and then down. The number of partner organizations and the detailed list of partners is what makes this event attractive. So partner organizations, again, it's free to be a partner. It just means you get to be associated with the event. I can list you as a participant. You're going to advertise the event to your constituency. And what I do with that partner list, why it's so important, is because I can't, in the press release or in an invitation like this, tell you what the topics are going to be. Listing all these partners is actually the way that I demonstrate value, because people are going to see opportunities for themselves by being amongst your list of partner people and organizations. So you can see on this partner list, and it starts on this page, goes to the next page, there's a whole range: business groups, civic groups, nonprofits, media, universities, arts, coalitions, restaurants, healthcare related organizations, faith-based organizations. You can get a very long list if you have an outreach team of 8 or 10 people concentrating on simply letting people commit to being a partner organization. You can see the list finishes off on the left, and then on the right-hand side, this is an invitation that I wrote for the Intercultural Interfaith Summit. And I just want to point out that that's a very simple title for an event. It was just called the Harrisonburg Intercultural Interfaith Summit. You can see in this invitation that I sent to people that I describe the goal of the event simply to build relationships across the many cultural communities in the Harrisonburg-Rockingham County area here in the central part of the Shenandoah Valley. And I just say, I know that you understand this is important. So I'm not doing a big sales job or justifying the event in, some long-winded way. I'm not over-promising what the event's about. I'm just saying, hey, come together, build relationships across the many cultural communities. And I do, under that, name a handful of related topics to that. I take a guess that there might be 25 breakout sessions or more. I do describe that the event will allow maximum interaction between all the participants. So I'm trying to get across the point that this isn't going to bottle everybody up and, let them not participate. This is about people interacting. I include a registration link where people can register. I've done anything from a free Google form to just email this person if you're coming to, I use Eventbrite now because of all its good functionality. This is kind of a best practice, that easy format for basic info: what, why, where, when, who, the cost, all those things. I kind of sum it up real easily there, rather than cramming all that into one paragraph that drives me nuts anyway. So a couple things to point out here. When? This was a Thursday from 3 to 9 p.m. That's a pretty odd time, I think. But we were trying, because it's an intercultural interfaith summit, we wanted to avoid the Sabbaths of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And we have some shift workers that we wanted to come, and they couldn't be there right at 3, but they could show up after work. And by then the event was already underway, and they could show up for the meal and see what the agenda was by the time they showed up. This is an odd time, it seems like, but this was the biggest event I've ever had. 350 people showed up to this event. Now, who in this, remember, this is the invitation now, I'm saying over 50 partner organizations have registered and over 150 people are expected. So, I don't, that's all you need to make people feel like it's a cool event. Cost, this is really important. The cost is free. I've made each one of these free, and I've pursued sponsorships to cover that. And if you're crossing a meal time, it's important that you do provide a meal. Now, you can avoid meals if you schedule like from 1 to 6 or something like that, or 1 to 7. You can kind of have a snack and avoid a big lunch or dinner expense. Repeat the registration link, and then I start the partner list again. But whenever I'm sending an invitation out like this, I always include a link that you can add yourself to this partner list, because it kind of becomes the cool thing to do to be listed on this partnership list. And you can see on the left-hand side, we had 50 partner organizations involved in this event at the time that this invitation went out. So we actually had more by the time the event happened. So on the right-hand side, this is, I think, the third sustainability summit I did. And this is actually a targeted invitation. You can see this is an invite just to the builders community. And at this point, we made a fancy logo for this event. I'm sending this invitation to the members of the local builders association. And so this is an invitation for an event targeted at the value that it might provide to a business. So you get to create a workshop. You could join the Table Expo. And again, there's only $75 to join the Table Expo, or you could become a sponsor. And I'll show you the sponsor breakdown here in a minute. But, sponsorships, I had one sponsorship for $1,000. And then in this case, there are still sponsorships available at $500 and $250. So that is not an outrageous amount of money for a lot of businesses that want to be associated with an event like this. Again, this event was free, and I talk about who's going to be at the event, featuring the region's leading organizations, businesses, and individuals dedicated to promoting sustainable work and living in the Shenandoah Valley. Notice I don't have, I'm not telling them exactly what the topics are going to be, because I don't know what they're going to be, but it still makes for an attractive invitation. And you can see this event was on April 23rd from 10 to 3:30. So we had a lunch, and we did it in downtown Harrisonburg. This invitation went on the left-hand side. It was actually hosted by the nonprofit that I was working for at the time. I already had $1,000 exclusive sponsorship. So that organization, Valley 25 by 25, I promised you'd have top billing for $1,000. That image has disappeared since then. I don't know who that sponsor was, but someone had already sponsored for $500. And you see I have one spot available left at $500. I limit those spots, so there's some scarcity there. And, it makes people want to snag that last sponsorship spot. Advocate sponsors I have, in this case, at the $250 level. And my idea was that I'd get one $1,000 sponsor, two $500, and up to four $250 sponsors. So there's $3,000 if I sell all the sponsors. And if I have 8 to 10 table expos that previously were advertised at $75 each, maybe I get another $500 to $750 that help me offset the costs of the event. So it's a very simple way to raise a few $1,000s for the event. And if your topic's hot enough, and you're doing a good job with outreach, you ought to be able to raise that much money. Now, the purpose, I'm explaining the event. It's to feature local organizations, businesses, and people who can assist others in pursuing more economical and sustainable ways to live and work in the Valley, to give attendees useful information, to provide a forum, to promote partnerships, right? Again, I'm talking about the reason of the event without needing to explain everything that happens. And then this is through Eventbrite, and Eventbrite has a function that lets you show the list of attendees. In this case, I didn't need the list of partners, or I didn't have a long list of partners at this point, but I had this really long list of people and businesses that had already registered. And that provide that same impact of, oh man, this is going to be the place to be. And you can see it's like 4 pages of people listed. And that's meaningful. I don't need to have all the breakout sessions named here to attract people when I can show all the people that are already coming. So topics of discussion in the email, I actually say right there in the invitation, you'll be able to create a discussion. And I do say there are some likely topics that might come up, but I'm not committing that those topics will definitely come up in this email. I describe who should attend. I review those levels of participation when it comes to sponsors and partners and exhibitors, and then attendees are free. And then here is the approximate agenda. So people could set up at 9. I told everybody to arrive at 9:30, but I wasn't really going to start things until 10:15. That allowed people to get to know each other and network and do the table expo. And then at 10:30, I opened it up for people to start their breakout sessions. And I had 3 session times. In this case, they were at 11, 12:15, and 1:30. And then I scheduled the closing session for 2:45. And logistics and meals is just that's just the heading that goes on the next page here. It's good to provide people parking information and that sort of stuff, and the Eventbrite email lets you put in a map and things like that. So I know that is a lot of information, but those of you who have organized events before, you can kind of review this guide and you can kind of see what it would take to pull something like this off. And I hope this guide is useful for you. And if we never talk again, use this and do a summit. You can do this. You can absolutely pull off a summit like this. Give yourself 2, 3, 4 months to pull your first one off, and then you have a list. And if you keep doing it in a community, you can really build some momentum. So I obviously would love to help you, and you can just contact me, and I'm going to set up ways that I can help coach people, and you can even have me show up and help really lead your team doing it, and there'll be options for that moving forward. But thanks for watching this. I hope it was useful to you. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to email me. Thanks for listening.